Good Tuesday to you, everybody in gov/com 664. Welcome to week. What is it? Two. Boom. How you doing? Good morning and good week to you. What do we have here? Let's see. It looks like a grizzly bear. Must be the Black Rifle Coffee Company mug. Very fine company. I encourage you to visit their site. They make a product that I think you enjoy if you enjoy coffee. All right, here I am now, your sufficiently caffeinated communication instructor with information and some updates and review and feedback on week one and what we're going to be doing in week two. All right, so first things first, let's talk about what we're going to be doing this week. Right, we now it being an 8-week class, as I mentioned, things move along quickly, so we're going to be, hopscotching big leaps through major topics. Not a whole lot of opportunity for granular examination in an 8-week course, but so it goes. This week, we're going to look at readings that get at perhaps in terms of the function of our system, that is the relationship between, remember this triangulation we have going on between government, the people, and media, is can we trust the media? Do they function as the fourth branch of government that is placing a check on the power of those who govern us, while at the same time informing us about the behavior of us, those who select the governing? All right, and there's a lot of reason to answer this question in the negative these days, but I'm not going to get into that because I don't want to bias what you're thinking as you go ahead and read. So we're going to be reading again from MIP and MAP. Lots of ground to cover. You'll read chapters 7 through 12 in PIP, and then you'll read chapters 5, 8, and 10 in MAP. Okay. Also, this week, your first movie review is, well, you should be completing it this week. I tweaked the date. I had it due, excuse me, I have something in my eye. I had it due on May 25th. I adjusted that out by one date. So when you look at the assignment sheet, you'll see that it's due May 26th. I realized when I set that, I'm like, oh, I see. I've conflicted the due date of the movie review with the same due date for the discussion questions, and I didn't want to do that. So I moved that out. Also, please note that in the syllabus, I'd had a word target listed for the movie review that was misaligned with the length, approximate, that I'd put on the review sheet. I mean, it was intentional that I changed the length when I drew up the not review sheet, the assignment sheet. When I drew up the assignment sheet for the movie reviews, okay, it was like something, in the syllabus it was listed as 750 to 1,000 words. I changed that to about 3 or 4 pages on the assignment sheet. Now they're both in the syllabus and in the assignment sheet. They both say 3 or 4 pages. If you note at the bottom of the syllabus is not a contract. It just sets out general guidelines subject to change. So I am not going to penalize you for a movie review that runs longer than 4 pages. Page length and page limit are an interesting thing. And I work within the confines and constraints of page length and word limit all the time because I write journalistic pieces, and I'm constantly getting stuff back from editors going, oh yeah, great, we love it, but it's got to be within blank number of words. And it's like, okay, where's my axe, aka my editing pencil? And I start hacking away. I don't want you to write for writing sake, that it's just words. Oh, I got to have something to fill up here. And no, what I want you to do is to have the space to cover the elements, the things that I want you to look at as it relates to the movie review, right? So read go to the film assignment sheet, and you'll notice that, in terms of the requirements, that is, you select one film for each of the four reviews, and then you produce a 3 to 4 page, can be longer, 12-point font, double space typed discussion in which you include at least the following elements. And then I list three. So if you put more in there, like, what did you think of the movie? Who were the actors that you thought did a particularly good job or bad job? That's fine. Because remember, what we're doing is we're evaluating the efficacy of artifice in communicating a larger point. And that's what artifice is supposed to do. It's a shrunk down. It's like you take this big, huge issue. So if I can do this, and you riff, and you turn it into this little teeny thing. And that's the beating heart of communication. Same thing with history, and a lot of these films are historically focused. I mean, the word itself, history, comes from the Greek word historia, which means to weave. So you think of, you're taking, like imagine a big pile of threads on the floor, of all different colors, and some of the are pieces of cloth, or swatches of cloth. Okay, your job is to put them together in a way that, one, makes sense, and two, is aesthetically pleasing, meaning someone actually wants to read what you wrote. And that's your job as a communicator. You're bringing together, whether it's two individuals or an individual in a group, or group and group, right? And part of that is you've got to spend some time mastering the skills of how to condense, how to organize in a way that makes sense, and then how to put those two essential exercises, condensing of a lot of material and organization of the material in a logical flow, put together in a way that somebody's going to want to read. And yeah, is it getting harder and harder for communicators in this task? Yeah, because the volume of stuff out there keeps going up. Now, I've spoken before about AI, and how in this exercise that is writing the film review, do not use AI at all. I mean, I'll tell you, I can smell AI through the screen. I mean, there are markers by way of the language, and how it's organized on a page, that give AI away. All right, so that's the first thing. Second thing is that everything that you submit through through Canvas, this has to go through a system called Turnitin. Okay, I mean, you'll see it on your Canvas, and it's going to give you a plagiarism score, and it's going to give you an AI score, and it's going to give me the same thing. So if you score high on the AI score, that's going to be a problem. So don't use AI. And you might be saying, well, I'm not using AI, and it scores high on the scale anyway. That's not fair, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Again, machines aren't perfect. Then it becomes your task as a writer to go back and rewrite what you did, so it doesn't look and come off as mechanical. All right. So in talking about AI, first things first, don't use it to write. And if if you're writing in a way that is so predictable that it looks machine-like, that's an indicator to you that you've got to work on that part of your craft as a communicator. And again, I am asking nothing of you that, number one, I don't do myself, and number two, isn't good for you as a developing professional in the communication field. Okay. I'm subject to the same thing. Editors look at my material and say, is this AI? Editors look at my material and they demand that it be written for a certain grade level and below. There's an index that it's an evaluator, an electronic evaluator that most writing gets run through that's ever published in magazines or newspapers, called the Flesch Kincaid grade level. And it scores writing in terms of what would the average reader at this particular grade level, and I mean like educational level, what would they be able to understand? Many papers that I've worked with, if it doesn't score 7th grade or below, they won't touch it. It's like, okay, do I intuitively write for a 7th grader? No, not really. All right, you just have to learn how to work with the constraints that get put on the process that's part of your business. That is communication. So that's the first thing. And then I talked to you about skills atrophy. It's not your friend. Okay. That is the other element here that you want to stay away from AI and writing this. So what's my point? Give yourself a little space. Don't leave this to the last minute where you're going, oh, I got to write something. I got to get something in. And it's just going to be exactly 4 pages. No, give yourself a little time. Maybe watch the film on a Friday. Take notes while you watch. I mean, you could even have the checklist of items that you're looking for, and then write it up on a Saturday. Set it aside. Look at it again on a Sunday or a Monday. Rewrite it. All right. So I changed the dates on the film so they align better with week 2 discussion. I changed the language in the syllabus so it aligns with the assignment. But remember, the assignment sheet always trumps the syllabus. Some of you have sent me an email saying, wait a minute, the syllabus has a different description of the requirement for the film review than the assignment sheet. What up with that? Always look to the assignment sheet because that trumps the syllabus. That comes before the syllabus. Okay. Goodness. Coffee's so good it'll kill you. So this week, in addition to reading about answering the question whether can we trust the media, you're going to be drilling down on your first movie review. And there's something like 12 movies on there to choose from. So, whatever interests you. Okay. All right. Also, this week, you have some discussion questions, as we will each week. So sorry. Now, again, some of you emailed me and asked me about, saying, I'm not really clear how these discussion questions go. Okay. Let me see if I can simplify. So it will happen often during the week because there's a lot to be read, right? I'm going to give you the choice of some questions. So for instance, in week 2, there are 7 questions posed. You don't have to answer all 7. If you read in the instructions for discussion week 2, it'll tell you choose 3 from the 7, all right? And then you have to write an answer for each of the 3. And then, okay, you have to go, so per question, let's just say, for instance, that you choose questions 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so the first question is a question about a study done by Page et al. The second one's some question about research done by Paul Gronke. And the third is a question about a concern offered by the scholar Matt Baum, over how the increase in Americans who are informed by soft news. So let's just say you pick questions 1, 2, and 3. You give an answer for those. That's 1, 2, 3 posts. Now, you got to go into the discussion board. All right. And for each for 3 questions, okay, pick 3 other classmates to respond to. So let's say you answer question 1 and you say, well, okay, because now I'm thinking about question 1. I'm going to go find 1, 2, 3 classmates who answered question 1 and respond to them. And then since I answered question 2, I'm going to go find 1, 2, 3 classmates who answered question 2 and respond to that one, to question 2. And since I answered question number 3, I'm going to go find 1, 2, 3 classmates that answered question number 3. That's 12 posts total for the week from you. Okay. Now, if it happens that you looked at these 7 questions and you answered questions 1 through 3, but you're reading through other people's responses and you looked at question 5, the question 5 is what's meant by voluntary political inequality, which, by the way, to me is a ridiculous term. But again, I'm keeping my opinions out of this. Like, yeah, I've heard of that, or I discussed that somewhere else, or yeah, I don't know anything about that. And you start reading other people's responses. Now, you've answered questions 1, 2, and 3. I'll do it like 1, 2, and 3. But you go, yeah, what is this? What is voluntary political inequality? So you then answer 3 people who answered, you respond, you engage in discussion with 3 people who answered question 5. 1, 2, 3. And then you go back and you go, oh, okay, I'll talk with, I'll give a discussion to 3 people who answered question 2. 1, 2, 3 posts. And then you go, oh, I'll talk with people because I did it, that gave a discussion post for question 3. 1, 2, 3, 12 posts. Okay. And no, you don't have to put it on a separate post. You can do it in the same one. I mean, when I graded it, it lists your activity by your name. So when I pull your name up, I expect to see the 3 answers to the questions. All right. 3 questions answered, maybe a better way to put that. And then I expect to see 9 responses to other people, engagements with other people. Now, if there's more, if you guys want to get into an ongoing conversation, super. All right. Now you might be saying, yeah, that's a bit of discussing there. Yeah, you're right. One of the things that we have to do in an 8-week course is keep the level of work commensurate with what you'd be doing in a 16-week course. So in other words, you're doubling up. That's why it's like that. Okay. If you don't understand, if I haven't explained this in a way that it goes click with you, please reach out to me. And, even if you want to, check the office hours, I'm always available during those times. Shoot me an email and you can call me up. We'll do, I prefer Zoom. I find that there's much lost in translation, as it were. Mediation, that's a better way to put it, when you're talking merely over the phone, or worst of all, when you're texting. Relationship hack: never ever discuss something of any significance, especially emotional significance, through text. It's a flattening mediator, and it is just absolutely rife. We're going to use both words, with a potential for misinterpretation. Get to face. Right? You'll do much better as a communicator if you do it that way. Okay. All righty. That's what we're going to be doing this week. Let's take a look at what you did last week. Now, I'll be reading some of your answers as we go through the semester, commenting on them. And here's my intent in doing this. I'm trying to flesh out for you, what it is I'm looking for you to focus on. And when I see folks that have gotten it really right, I go, oh, okay, you get this really right. When I see people that are sort of off and outside of what we're looking for, then I might read that answer too. This is not meant to criticize any individual. This is looking at work product. All right. And that's how the marketplace goes. Okay. I love you all. All right. Question number 1 from last week. What is new media? Citing material from at least one chapter from both PIP and MAP discuss some of the ways that new media is impacting the political landscape of the 21st century. In your opinion, is this impact positive or negative? Okay, now I will tell you that this question remains pertinent regardless of what year that you're in, because there's always going to be media that's rolling into a space previously occupied by other media. And then we say, oh, that's that over there. That's the old media. This is the new media. And I don't, I think at this point, excuse me, just things on the internet and blogs, they become so commonplace that I don't know if they are the new stuff as opposed to, the very traditional broadcast, news is sort of the desk and tonight, okay. That straightforward anchor standing in front of the big screen has been so thoroughly, I'm not saying it's gone, it's been so thoroughly disrupted as a media pattern that what disrupted it, blogs, vlogs, shorts, whether that's Instagram or TikTok or whatever, is now so commonplace. It begs the question as to whether that form of media, the shorts, the vlogs, is new. What's coming as the new? Good question. I don't know. All right. But anyway, so it's never, it's a question that never phases out of relevancy. All right, Charles, let's take a look at you. You went last. Let's take you first. The new media information platforms outside traditional large news organizations and transmission modes, such as newspapers, television, made possible by evolving technology, resulting in an expansion of both private providers and consumers. This expansion is characterized by 3 key features that significantly impact the landscape of the 21st century America. Yeah, and so remember, and this will be something that I want you to remember for the test. Try to see what's the main point, what's the focal point of the question I'm being asked, and go right to that. So far, so good, Charles. The first is that it makes access to information cheap and ubiquitous. Computers and smartphones have made access to information from a wide variety of sources, new organizations, platforms much easier and instant for the average person. There's no waiting for the curated 6 o'clock news or morning papers to provide large organizations who often have their own agendas or biases. Very true. Now, we need to be aware as media consumers and media analysts, because that's what we do as communication professionals, that no one is free from bias. All right. And it used to be, I mean, I can't say that it's not anymore, so pardon that introduction because I'm not in a journalism school. But when my first degree, my first training was as an historian. And one of the things, in fact, we spent almost a year, a long time. One of the skill sets that were, that was beaten into our pointy little heads was that of method, historiography, when you're talking about history. And the center point of historiography was impartiality. You looked at the facts. You were going to be evaluated on how well you gathered the facts and how you organized them and presented them, and how you analyzed and concluded from them. And bias was not allowed as part of the equation. Outside of professional training and methodology, I'm afraid it runs rampant. Okay. The second is that it emphasizes The second is that it emphasizes a change initially begun by the advent of television thematic messages, one framing event or episode. This is in effect driven by ubiquitous nature of news today. The information is reported as it happens, often devoid of context or other explanatory information, and usually framed as breaking news in a sensationalist manner focused on the event itself. Okay, that's a very good point. Okay. I mean, I'm a prodigious reader of the news because this is my business, and also because I work in it, and it's funny because each morning when I get up and I read through several news platforms, you think I would learn, but morning after morning I am surprised and sort of like, what? At how much information is presented as news. What somebody wore on a red carpet, I mean, that's information. Is it news in the sense that it's relevant to things that affect my life or our lives? No, who's dating who, or who appeared in Euphoria in a steamy scene that fans are going crazy over, blah 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 blah. One of the hallmarks of new media is it spends less time telling you what's the point and a lot more time just moving a bit of information from here to over here. And over here is right in front of your face. So we get to the essence of the question. Is this a positive or a negative? Okay. I believe the answer to this division is more greater access to public information and perspectives. Facts are interpretive. Interpretations can only be validated or invalidated by other facts. The impact of cheap, ubiquitous, and focus on events or episodes combined with self-selection exacerbates the divide in the political landscape, making them appear increasingly irreconcilable. So I take it by that measure, Charles is saying this is a bad thing. Okay. While I applaud and agree with the greater access of the public to information and different perspectives, things that are necessary to a functional democracy, the divisions within the nation seem to be widening. The phrase of civil war is carelessly spread around. Okay, I don't disagree with you. I think that phrase is bandied about. It's a weird, ironic twist that we created these platforms for information, and I'm talking about mediated digital, with the assumption that more information would lead to more discussion, would lead to more cooperation, would lead to a more harmonious society. And I began my graduate studies as the World Wide Web. I mean, just as it was being born. It didn't exist when I started my graduate studies. Now, you should know, as a communicator in the 21st century, the difference between the internet and the World Wide Web. Okay, the internet is the, roughly speaking, it's the wiring, it's the servers, it's the hardware, it's the physical connectivity of places, server banks, which are just computers that hold information across. I mean, when it was done initially, it was just from one room to another. Now it's across the whole planet. That's the internet. The World Wide Web is the data, the information that is contained on the machines. Okay. Back in the day, I mean, the internet was developed in the 50s. But as the number of machines in distant places began to increase and information kept on them was being exchanged back and forth, when that became accessible to the public, in the beginning, there were no programs, search engines like Google, that went and found these things. You, as a user, had to know the address of the system of the machine where the information was kept. Now some of you have heard this from me before, but I say it again. When they were coming up with the nomenclature for this technology, oh brother, could they have used an English major in the room? Because it's like, let's see, we have to come up with terms and descriptors to inform future peoples as to what's going on with this technology. Oh, let's make it as obscure and confusing as possible. Okay, so instead of just the good old useful word address to tell you where a chunk of information is located on a particular machine, because I think we're all smart enough to understand that we say address like on a house is different than address like what you give to an audience. Ooh, we don't get those confused. No, that word in itself is just not good enough. We need a much more complicated phrase. We need to say universal resource locator. URL. So back in the day, when the World Wide Web was starting to emerge, we used to carry around phone books of URLs. We'd write them out by hand. Because if you wanted to access information on a particular bank of servers on a computer bank, you had to type in the whole address. There was not a program like Google that translated, plain old English query like restaurants near me into a find for all of these URLs. So the thought, I mean, they with the best intentions, they put this communication system together, this platform, with the assumption that it would draw people together. You know what they say about good intentions? Because it just has not worked out that way. Okay. Now the question is, what are we going to do with it? Well, good question. That's another question, though. Question number 2. According to M. Schudson, why do we need an unlovable press? Do you agree with his position? If Schudson is not correct, do you think that the political polarization discussed in Chapter 4 of MAP is good or bad for society? Jennifer, let's see what you're up to. I do agree with Schudson's impression of the need for an unlovable press, that the press is kept at a distance, allowed to conduct their investigations, report on a democratic and free society, all the better for its survival. If the media are too close to political elites, they lack the ability to objectively see an issue for what it is. When media can focus on events rather than stories of actions and activists, the fixation of the press on conflict, whatever or wherever it erupts, combines with the cynicism of journalism towards politicians. All contribute to society not loving the media. And this is a quote from Gravier. Okay. Okay, I would agree. I think that is correct. We do need an unlovable press. And there are certain elements of our government, I should say certain occupants of our government at present that make this particularly easy. Now, I'm not taking any sides here, partisan wise. Okay, I'm just evaluating what's about to come out of my mouth as a communication scholar, to say that the current occupant of the executive office makes it easy to have an unlovable press is an understatement. I've been aware of and watching politics, not always understanding it. And I was a wee whipper for a very, very long time. I grew up in an era that was very cued in to political events and politicians, in a household in which there were animated, sometimes really political discussions, that involved all of us starting from a young age. And I'm talking like, not long after the age of 5, which you might be saying, what? But that was, the generation that I came out of. I have never, ever, never seen a president address the media like this president does. To say flat out that someone's stupid, you're like a piggy, you're ugly, you're evil. Why would you ask a question like that? Again, I'm keeping my cards in terms of my my politics on individuals and parties close to my vest. I'm making an analysis as a communication scholar about behavior. Um, you're making it easy to make the press unlovable, and we ought to note to make the press not love you. So yes, I agree, Jennifer. Good answer. This is important. Okay, question number 3: is the growth of infotainment and amateur journalism endangering democracy? Angelia, let's see what you have to say. Rapid growth of infotainment and amateur journalism poses a serious threat to democracy because misinformation can spread faster than verified facts. Okay. First things first. I don't know that I agree with the premise. Okay. That there's nothing inherent, and this is not. Now, by the way, understand what we're doing here in this class. This is not a criticism of you, Angelia. This is a critique of the answer. There's nothing inherent in misinformation as opposed to facts. That the one spreads faster than the other. It is much more a function of frames and framing, which we're going to get to this week. You'll read about that. Okay. So this is bandied about a lot. Well, we shouldn't have misinformation, which we shouldn't, because it spreads all over the place faster than facts. No, it doesn't. It's how something is framed. Sensational, emotionalized information, be it factual or fictional, spreads fast, right? But back to your answer. In mass media and American politics, Gravier and Dunaway explain that entertainment value increasingly shapes political news coverage. Media organizations compete for ratings, clicks, followers, often emphasizing scandal, conflict, emotional reactions over substantive policy analysis. Yes, now that is true. And this is, and part of this answer is for everybody. I'm trying to get you to put your finger on and be able to have an operational understanding of what we mean by infotainment. Okay, this is information that is just wrapped up in, that somehow has to be attached to entertainment. Because if it's just the facts, then it's somehow, boring, I can't watch this. Okay, and that's not good for the clicks and the money. Okay. Conflict reaction to the packaged public service designed to news becomes packaged as entertainment rather than as a public service designed to inform citizens. Similarly, authors in Media Power Politics warn the modern media pressure can weaken journalism's responsibility to provide accurate, verified information. Now, this is true. All right. Now, because something has not been verified is in itself not inherently an indicator that it's false. It just means that the process of sussing out whether this is true or not hasn't been followed. It's laziness. Now, I know, and I work with a lot of people in the media. In terms of the hours and the pace at which they work, they're not lazy. I mean, we're not talking about like someone standing on the side of the road holding a slow and stop sign as you approach a construction zone. And no criticism to anybody that works in a road crew, but this is not a high energy job. Okay. That's not how most jobs in the media go. Most jobs are fast paced, nonstop, 24/7, only people calling you. It's like, yeah. Okay, that's not what I mean by lazy. I mean driven by deadlines that there's just not a lot of checking and following up. Okay. But we get to Angelia, your opinion. In my opinion, infotainment amateur journalism become dangerous when factual information is dismissed in favor of clickbait, outrage, social media popularity. Yeah, okay. I mean, that's a good point. And I don't know that I would use the word dismiss, maybe just disregarded. Through my time in political and community advocacy work, I have seen how sensational headlines and viral content can shape public opinion more quickly than carefully analyzed or verified reporting. And again, I think that's a good point. And I think this is a matter of time, that is, how much time has somebody spent with a story, weighed against, we've created a monster, and that is a public that wants things right now. I want it right now. Just tell me. It's like, well, we don't know the whole story yet. It's going to take some time to figure it out. No. Well, then steps another entity and says, I'll tell you what it is right now. It's outfit on the red carpet. That's what's most important right now. But glad we figured that out. In that respect, yes, you're right. This is not good for us. I've seen how sensational headlines and violent content can shape public opinion more quickly and carefully analyzed or verified reporting, just as crimes cannot realistically be solved in 60 minutes as they are on TV. Complex political and social issues cannot be responsibly explained in 30-second sound bites or TikTok clip, a TikTok clip. Democracy depends on informed citizens capable of distinguishing truth from opinion. News should inform the public, not merely entertain it. Okay, excellent answer. Angelia and everybody else, here's what I propose is the nub of what's going on. I know we're running a little long, but here's the nub. Here's the heart of the matter, the heart of the question for us as a society. Okay. The heart of it is not about what the media is or isn't doing. Well, that's important. The heart of it is not about whether the media has too close a relationship with our power structure, although that's part of it. The heart of the matter, the central question to our functional democracy is as follows. You may see this elsewhere. I may ask you this elsewhere. Wink. Do we trust? Do we believe that our fellow citizens, Jane, Joe, Schmo, have the capacity to distinguish between clickbait and bona fide stories? Because if we don't, and to be able to do so freely, not told what they should believe, not restricted in what they should look at, not excoriated and shamed for you foolish people, blah 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 blah. Because if we don't believe that anybody else has that capacity as a fully autonomous, free-willed individual, that's a genuine danger to democracy. Because democracy, which comes from the Greek word demos, which means crowd, depends entirely upon the belief that you trust anybody else to be able to make a decision for themselves and for you. Because remember, within a crowd, everybody else is the crowd to you, and you are the crowd to everybody else. Now, am I saying that everybody can and should be trusted? Well, I'm not answering that question. All right. I'm proposing to you that is the central question. Can we trust one another enough to say, yep, this guy, this girl, this man, this woman has the capacity to distinguish between fact and fiction, and I trust their reasoning abilities, so much so that everybody gets a vote and everybody gets a say. When that starts to break down, when that belief erodes, that's where democratic societies get in trouble. Think about that. Okay, good job this first week. I see some of you already have done your film reviews. That's fine. You have till the 26th. All right. If you have any questions about the review, the discussion sections, all of that stuff, reach out to me. I am here for you. Okay. I think about you. I pray about you. And until next week, I'll see you on Canvas. Take care. God bless. Bye-bye.